Hey guys, this is Carrie. Bye. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back again. All right, today we are going to talk about Americans, and we're going to talk about what Americans are stereotyped as by Indians, or at least some stereotypes I've come across since I've been in India. And also, we'll talk a little bit about some of the stereotypes that Americans may have of Indians. Right, first of all, one friend of mine from the US pointed out that Americans can be a little bit ethnocentric. And it's a big word that means we look at other people groups and judge them according to our personal standards. Okay? People have a set of values, and they will make their judgments of people based off of those values, whether or not that person lives in the same culture or comes from the same culture. So that's one of the things that we face. Americans are very much ethnocentric, and some Indians are too. Okay. Well, all Americans look like you, right? They all have white skin, blonde hair. That's what color we call this, blonde. Some people, I've heard them call it white. This is blonde. All Americans do not have white skin and blonde hair. All these notes. All right, 72% of Americans are white. All American people are not Christian. About 65% of the American population will claim Christianity. So that means we have 26% of people who do not believe in any God. Or they believe that there is a God, but they don't follow them. Or they just don't even think about any gods or anything like that at all. Well, no, but we do have a pretty high population of people that are what can be considered obese. Right, we have Now, I thought this was kind of interesting. I wanted to know how many obese people are in India. Well, the first number that I found was actually how many underweight people are in India. However, as of 2019, India entered into the top 5 countries of obese people. Right? So India has a really high number of obese people and a really high number of underweight people. Not so many. Every American that I've ever met has money. I hear this in India quite often, and people will expect when I go to visit them that I have a lot of money. And yes, if we judge the amount of money that I have according to India standards, there's that ethnocentric thing again. According to Indian standards, yes, we have a fair amount of money. More money than a lot of the Indian people that I know. But let's put this in perspective of a US citizen within the US. Okay? A little perspective though. In the US, for renting a house that has 2 bedrooms, in the state of New York, where my home is, the average rent there is about $1,500. That's just over 1 lakh by Indian standards. The average rent for the same size of apartment In India, in some place like Mumbai, is only about 22,000 rupees, right? So yes, by Indian standards, I would have a lot of money. I spend a lot of money. Right, now let's talk about homeless people. We've talked about how much it costs to have a home. Obviously, not everybody can afford to have a home. In the US, about 0.2% of the population, or just over 500,000 people, just over 5 lakh people, are homeless. That means that they either do not have a home to live in at all, or they're living with a friend or something like that so that they don't have to live on the streets. But the majority of those people, over 300,000 people, live either on the street or in a homeless shelter. In India, that number is really high. It's 1.7 million people that they've counted. And we know, being in India, that so many more people are not counted and they do not have a home. All right, there are a lot of Americans that they don't eat much rice, but most Americans eat some rice. For us, rice is not the main part of our meal. Rice can be if we're having a dish that's maybe that has like an Asian base. We like to have fried rice. We often have what we call stir fry, which you guys again would call fried rice maybe. We like to have steamed rice. We have rice as kind of a side dish as opposed to our main dish for the most part. Right. For most of my family, breakfast is not really a big meal. A lot of Americans want just something quick because we're busy or we're lazy. That one's true. There are a lot of lazy Americans, but there are a lot of really hard-working Americans. But for the most part, for breakfast, a breakfast food would be something like cold cereal or a pastry of some sort. Most of the time, as a child, when I was growing up, I would have something simple like a sandwich, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Those were my favorite. Something really popular and common is tomato soup and grilled cheese sandwiches. Those are amazing. Some things that we have for dinner. A typical dinner in the US is going to have, the main dish is meat. All the meal revolves around meat. And we eat pork, and we eat beef, and we eat chicken and turkey, and we eat lobster and crab and fish. And if there's meat, my family usually eats it. Doesn't matter what kind it is. But traditionally, some of the more typical meals will have beef or pork or chicken. And along with the meat, we'll have a vegetable. That's the next biggest part of our meal, is the vegetable. And then we'll have some sort of carbohydrate, starch, potato or rice. A lot of times here in India, we have rice and curry and dal. Almost every day, we eat the same way as our boys here are used to eating. And I love it. It's simple, it's tasty, it's amazing. But in the US, we generally have a very big variety of food. We like foods in our house from lots of different cultures, and we have access to foods from lots of different cultures. We like Korean food, we like Mexican food, we like Italian food, we like Indian food, we like food. Okay? We like food. All right. Well, that's not something we're born with. We don't just know what the Bible says. We're not naturally better at understanding the Bible. We don't speak the same English that's in the Bible, especially if you have the King James Bible. That's not the English that we speak. we have to learn that English also. It's very much different. But over time we learn it, we understand it, just like you learn languages and understand them over time. But we don't naturally just know the Bible. When we go to church, we have Sunday school classes for all the ages, including the adults. We focus a lot on studying the Bible, and in our churches, they don't just preach on Sunday morning, they'll also teach what the Bible says. And they teach us how to study the Bible so that we can then learn more on our own. Not every American that comes to India, by the way, is a Bible scholar. I'm not a Bible scholar. My husband also is not a Bible scholar. But we do know our Bibles because we read them, and our churches have taught us how to study them. Average height for women in America is 5 feet 4 inches, so I'm tall. I'm not really that tall, but I am the tallest daughter that my father has. I'm the tallest daughter my mother has. Absolutely not. Even those who feel like their lives are stable, sometimes it's not really that stable. But it depends on what you're looking for. If you're talking about financial security, no. We have, like I said, a homeless population. People can lose their jobs. People can get an illness and not be able to work anymore. We just have regular lives, but possibly according to Indian standards, that can look like it's stability, but yeah, we feel like we're mentally stable. So if that's what you're talking about, we're good there. Right. I didn't really look into that situation a lot. Yes, divorce happens in America. No, it's not something that people go into marriage thinking, if it doesn't work, I'll just get divorced. That's not a common thought, but it happens. I'm thinking they're talking about having the ability at an earlier age to go out and live on their own. That's not necessarily true, but if we do have that situation happening, it's because of how we're raised. America has an individualistic culture. Right? Our culture is based on the individual person. What can that person do? How can they reach their goals? And we have to prepare our kids as they're growing to be able to support themselves and defend themselves and to think for themselves and plan for themselves, because it's what's expected from our culture. If you set the expectations as high as we do in America for what people need to achieve by a specific age, Indians will no doubt meet those expectations. It has nothing to do with genetics or anything in this matter. It just has to do with what the expectations are and how we raise our kids. Legal standards in the United States, at 18 years old, you're an adult and you are free to go out and live on your own. That doesn't mean that every family in the US says, oh, you're 18, get out of my house. But we have some stereotypes of our own. Even though we do have a large Indian population, that doesn't mean that everyone in America has met an Indian. And a lot of the Indians that we have, that we know for sure are Indians, they're from mainland India. So the other thing we have in the US to base our ideas on is, just like you base a lot of ideas from America on Hollywood, we look at Bollywood. That's what we see. So we think, oh, well, between that and then the sad stories we hear about the poor people in India, we think that you're either out dancing in the streets or you're poor and you're living in the streets. Obviously, that's not the case. When I first came, I was surprised to see people that had lighter colored skin, people that looked like they could be Asian. How many people in America do not realize India is in Asia? Is astounding to me. I do know India is in Asia, by the way, but I wasn't expecting the look of the people from the Northeast, because all of the information I had from my personal experience was with people from mainland India. So I was expecting people with darker skin, with rounder eyes, and with a specific, very distinct Indian accent. But that is not what I have here. And I love that. India is so full of different people of different colors, different cultures. There are different religions, there are different backgrounds. Just living here in Siliguri, there are so many people from so many different cultures, and they all look different and they all sound different. I don't think I've ever shared this with any of my friends, but in America, any of the Indians that we know smell like curry. Like they just have that curry smell. When you walk past their house, it's coming out their windows and it smells amazing. And so Indian people make me hungry. And food, again, there we go. That is not the case either. One other person said Indians, especially in the Northeast, smell like king chili. That's from someone who has spent a lot of time in India, and that's a stereotype that they had in their head after their first 1 or 2 visits. Because of the places they went, they thought that Indians smell like king chili, especially in the Northeast. That's not true. King chili smells good too, but not as good as curry. But can I get my friends to just wear a little curry smell for me? No. They don't love me. Americans think that Indians are smart because a lot of the Indians in the US study all the time and they perform very well. But a lot of the Indians that I know in the US are there on scholarships. They already studied really well and studied really hard before they came. Or their families are very strict because they want them to study well and get a good job in the US so they can continue to live that lifestyle as opposed to the lifestyle they may have lived in India. They have more opportunities to succeed in different areas in the US than in India. Not all Americans, but it is kind of in our culture, especially in my family. Obviously, my family culture and other people's families in the US, we're not all the same either. It's just like everyone in India is not the same. But in our family, we encourage our kids to go out and try the things that they seem to be interested in. We want them to be brave, and we want them to be bold, and we want them to try new things because we are an individualistic society. We want them to go out and find what makes them be able to provide for themselves, what prepares them to provide for their families, what gives them enjoyment in life. If you can find a job that you're happy with, you're willing to work hard at that job and you can be more successful. The biggest thing we encourage our kids to do in our family is to have a relationship with Christ and to keep that relationship above everything else. And if they can do that and they can be successful in whatever they choose to do in their life, whether it's be a mom or be a pastor or be a scientist or race sled dogs or be a musician, if you are putting God first and you are happy with the work that you're doing, then we're happy with what our kids are doing. Those are some of the things that I've heard about India, some of the things I've heard from Indians about Americans. And I hope that if you have any more questions, that you will comment below. Ask me your questions. I'm happy to answer them. No question. I really like those questions people think are stupid or silly questions. I like them. Ask me. I don't mind. It's fun. Okay. So if you liked what you heard, then please come back again next week. Click the like button, comment, share, subscribe. Okay guys, come back and see me again next week. Bye-bye. Today I get to sleep past 7 o'clock and I woke up at 5.